In this SUPboarder review, we're going to be looking at the Hatha Nino, which is an inflatable kid SUP. Always great to do some kid SUP reviews because it's a great idea of getting kids into paddleboarding. The dimensions for this board, it's 8 foot long, 28 inches wide, it's 4.75 inches thick, which means it's 166 litres in volume. It weighs 9.9 kilograms and it retails the full package at £475. The board is made of an internal core of drop stitch, which gives it rigidity and shape, and it's got 2 outer layers of military grade PVC to finish off the board and keep it airtight. Now at £475 this is a cheap board, but the question is it a cheap board in quality? And the answer is no. It's got everything that a more expensive board would have, and some actually better than more expensive boards we have tested. Just for instance, the sort of thing we mean is the deck pad. It's a nice big deck pad, cool colorways, but it's nicely how it's finished off, and it sort of matches the look of where the PVC coloring is on the board. So the orange and white and back with the white stripe just makes it look a little bit more classy, and again it's well finished off. So it's a crocodile deck pad EVA grip, which is all over the board. Really great for the kids to stand on, nice and comfy, gives them a load of grip. Nice big carry handle, so it's easy for them to carry down the beach, because a lot of the time this has got to be as easy as possible for the kids to use and just get into paddleboarding and enjoy it. There's a small bungee area at the front there that you can put your drink on and maybe a little backpack and stuff. Obviously you're not going to use this for any full-on adventure, but then if you're a smaller person, you can have smaller stuff, so it will fit under there, so that's a good thing to have up there. There's the inflation valve at the front, so this is an inflation at the front board, so when you roll it up, you're going to be rolling it up from the tail towards the nose. There's pluses and minuses to each one, but we don't ever see it as an issue. It comes with a really cool colour coordinated coiled leash, which is great, and it's actually small enough to fit around the smallest of ankles, which is good to know as well. It's got a carry handle at the back of the board, which is very handy. If you're teaching somebody in the shallows, you can actually hold the back of the board, get the little ones upright, getting them in the right paddle position, and you still have a hold of their board. And the same thing can be said for the front. There's a D-ring at the front there, which is also great for attaching a spare leash from you to them, and you can tow them along behind you as well. So a great thing for getting them into the water and following you without going off the opposite direction to where you're trying to go, which is what it's going to happen when you take kids paddleboarding. So let's move on to what it's like on the water and sort of the outline shape of why it is the way it is. So it's an 8 foot long board and it's 28 wide. It's not that long. Some other kids iSUPs are around the sort of mid 9 foot lengths, and some are a little bit smaller, but an 8 foot length of an iSUP for kids getting into it is a really good size for the sort of small kids up to about maybe 12 years old. What's that about? I'm guessing maybe up to about 65 kilograms in weight. You could use this up to about 75 kilograms in weight, but bear in mind if you're taller, generally you're going to want something a little bit longer. And the reason I'm saying that is because when you're taller, you can put more paddle strokes, more width of your paddle stroke in, and generally a little bit longer board will go in a straighter line a bit easier. But for the smaller kids, for the younger kids, and definitely like my daughter who's testing it, who's 3.5, bear in mind she's been paddleboarding since she was 2, but this board is a really good size for her because it's not too long, it's easy to turn around, and it's easy to use in the water. We've used other boards that are longer, and she definitely doesn't like them as much because it's way harder to maneuver and turn around. And remember, with kids, when they're paddleboarding, a lot of the times they don't just want to go off in one big straight line and big journey. They want to turn around, they want to jump off the board, they want to have some fun, and they really want to enjoy it. And having an 8 foot length board around that sort of length for these iSUPs when they're around 8 feet is a pretty good size for those younger kids to really get into the sport. The other thing this board has got, opposed to some other boards in the market, this has a thruster setup, which is 3 fins. They're super indestructible fins, which are on other boards. Really flexy, can't break them, but they're quite grouped together and they're quite far forward on the board. Now what that does is if it's further forward on the board, it makes your board turn easier. It brings the pivot point further forward. The further back your fins are, the easier it is to paddle in a straight line, which is why race boards and touring boards have their fins right at the back and they're relatively big. So when a little kid is riding it, the smaller the kids, the younger they are, the size of the fins really make a difference to be able to turn the board around. So most of the time when we teach kids up to about the age of 11, they struggle more with turning around than going in a straight line, because usually there's a bit of wind and they end up paddling on one side and they're off in a direction. You go ask them to turn around and they have to put big strokes in, and because they're not that good at it, they do little strokes and it takes them a long time to turn around. So a smaller fin setup that's further forward on the board makes it way easier for the kids to turn the board around, and we really noticed it when kids were on this board. But maybe if you're looking to get a kid into paddleboarding who's about 5'5", getting near the adult size, up around the 70 kilograms, starting to weigh a bit more, something a little bit longer would be easier to paddle in a straight line, because they can turn it around easier because they've got more power in their paddle stroke. So I hope that makes sense. For the little ones, it's really great having the fins further forward, really easy to turn around, a lot of fun. So let's have a look what else you get with the package. So you get a 3-piece paddle, which is a glass paddle with a plastic blade, which is really well finished and nice and secure. Comes apart in the center there with a push pin and a sort of tightening buckle there, and it's got an adjustable top unit which pulls out like that. Quite a light paddle, definitely better for the slightly bigger kids for blade size, because it's still got a bit of width to it. But the good thing about this system is you can take the top section off and you can put it on the bottom section, which is what we did for my daughter. Slide that in there, do that up, and then you've got a shorter base paddle. Really simple thing, so it's great to know, so you can get lots of different size, height kids on the board and using the same paddle. The bag's really well finished off, and it's got a really heavy duty ripstop nylon, a big plastic zip, loads of buckles and stuff to clip it all down and make it smaller. It's got wheels and all the sort of stuff you'd expect on a really sort of top end bag. Backpack, waist straps, it's got everything basically, and it's nicely colour coordinated with the orange and black. And the other thing as well, it's quite important to note, some of you might notice, some might not, is it's got its Nino logos down the side. Now that's quite a big thing actually. Not many brands logo up their board brand type on the side of their bag, so it's just another little feature, but it shows a bit of quality and a bit of class. So the bag's really nice and heavy duty, easily does the job, easily going to go on an airplane and take you places. The pump it comes with is a pump we've tested several times before. A few other brands have got the same sort of pump. It's a double action pump, relatively small cylinder, so it pumps on the upstroke and the downstroke. Then you can change it over when it starts to get tough, just to pump on the downstroke. It's got a built-in pressure gauge at the top, nice long lead, and it's all simple. Pumps this board up pretty quick because it is a relatively small board. The PSI range for this board is about 15 to 18 PSI, but it has been tested up to 26 PSI, so it will take a lot of pressure. But with the little kids in it, you won't need to put that much air in it. Really sitting around the sort of 12 PSI is absolutely fine for the smaller kids. So who do we think the Hatha Nino will best suit? Well, you're going to be able to put your super young small kids on this board from the sort of 2 years old up to about, I would say about 11 to 12 years old. So we're talking about 75 kilograms, but really it's the height of the kids. Remember, if they're getting on the taller stage, maybe get them on something slightly longer, but that mid sort of prime age, getting them into paddleboarding, is a great size SUP. Pros and cons and value for money. Well, pros, it is just a really nice shape and size board for kids to paddle, and it's something they definitely are going to get into paddleboarding on. And the cons, well, the only thing we really come up with is the paddle itself. If you're paddling with smaller, lighter kids, you might want to get them a smaller blade itself. The paddle is great, and the height of the paddle is fine, and the weight of the paddle is fine, but actually something with a slightly smaller blade will just make it easy for them to just paddle. But that is definitely for the lighter kids. For the slightly heavier kids, up to sort of 50 to 75 kilograms, this paddle blade will be absolutely fine. Value for money, well, I think you might guess it yourself. It's £475. We think it's a very good deal and a very nice package. Yes, this is definitely a good value board. Really hope you found that SUPboarder review interesting and informative. Remember, if you want more information on this board, check out the SUPboarder Pro video, where we're going to look at other board brands that are available that we can compare it to and see which would come up plus and minus compared to this. But definitely, it's a great thing getting kids into paddleboarding. Look out for a full feature we're going to do soon, which is tips on getting your kids into paddleboarding, getting them on the water this summer. But until then, we'll see you next time on SUPboarder Mag or on YouTube. Thanks a lot.